Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new video series on the channel, which is the review series. So a few of you have asked for a long time that I actually do reviews on video games that I play on the channel and video games in general to get my opinions on them. Today we're going to be starting off that review series, and we're going to be starting off with none other than a game that I know everyone is very excited for me to talk about, which is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Yep. It's the one that I'm sure everyone was expecting me to review first. We're going to be breaking down this game today. We're going to be going in depth throughout this game on my opinions of it, what I think is good, what I think is bad, and we'll get an answer at the end of it. And of course you'll get my rating of the game overall. So that being said, let's dive on into Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. So this is the 7th entry inside of the Harry Potter video game series. The story of the game follows on from Dumbledore being killed inside of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and now Voldemort is basically trying to take over the wizarding world, leaving Harry to be the only person being able to stop him by going and destroying Voldemort's Horcruxes. And while Harry is searching for these Horcruxes and trying to destroy them, he's of course being attacked at various points by Death Eaters as well as Snatchers. As this game is based entirely off of the movie and not off of the book at all, it actually does a pretty good job at following the film. However, of course it would be a really short game if it only followed the movie, so as a result the devs decided they needed to add in some extra levels to try and beef up the story, sort of. So the game is split into sort of sections. You have points where you play the actual main storyline of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, and then just at very random points during the game you will just see your companions or whatever disappear, and you have to go off and do these side levels which have nothing to do with Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1's movie. They're just here to pad out the game. I wouldn't have anything against these side missions being thrown into the game like this and just randomly breaking up the story if they actually made sense and were good. Unfortunately, these side missions are just the most random thing added into this game. They really are. Most of these side missions don't make any sense whatsoever, and the thing that really annoys me the most about them is the fact that some of these side missions during the main story, for example, you might go to the Ministry of Magic during the main quest. You then find that the Death Eaters find out that Harry is there, and of course they have the place on high alert and are then trying to hunt him down, but of course Harry escapes. That's fine. Why then later on in the game is Harry for some reason just sitting there at a camp going, you know what I fancy doing? I'm going to go back to the Ministry of Magic. Why not? Why has he all of a sudden gone back to the one place which is probably on ridiculously high alert right now, trying to kill him or find him, and all of a sudden he's just gone there to free some Muggleborns that are in prison? I mean, it doesn't really make any sense. It's just kind of thrown in there, and it's there of course like I said to pad out the game. Overall these side missions are weird. They're just repetitive, same sort of side missions, most of them. The one that feels unique out of the whole lot, but again doesn't make any sense to be in this game whatsoever, is the one where Harry decides for some apparent reason he wants to go to a cave with a Hungarian horntail dragon inside of it. Absolutely no background as to why he's decided he wants to just pop off to a cave with a Hungarian horntail inside of it. I don't really understand why I'm playing this mission. Why is it here? What's going on? What's the story behind it? Why does it exist? But yes, in a nutshell, these side missions are silly and, to be honest, shouldn't have been in the game. I would have rather had a shorter game that just focused on the actual story than playing these really pointless side missions that just feel really thrown together at the last second. If these side missions had actually had some proper story elements to them and tried to expand on the main story a bit more, I wouldn't have minded them. That then brings me on to the voice acting inside of this game. Some of the voice acting is just not very good in this game at all. In all honesty, the voice actor for Voldemort in this wasn't too bad. As for the voice acting for Hermione, yeah, it's not the best, and also a lot of other characters really fall down here as well, like Bellatrix sounds debatable. There's this segment in the game that always catches my eye every time, where they have basically not bothered to lip sync Hermione's model at all to what she's saying, so as a result she speaks, and then when she's no longer talking, her model is still opening and closing her mouth. Overall though, the voice acting is poor. And then the other aspect of the story that I want to bring up is how elements of the story are randomly placed in this game. game. There are aspects that just don't make any sense and don't have any proper connection to one another. And the perfect example I have for this is the level that I like to call Following Dean and Griphook. This is a really long level and one of the worst levels in the entire game. But basically you follow Dean and Griphook through these power factory areas and out on the countryside, etc. for a long time, and you would think at the very end, okay, maybe the trio is going to go and talk to them now. But no, what happens is those two cross over a bridge, disappear completely from reality, and are never seen ever again. And all of a sudden this cutscene where the trio start talking about how Godric Gryffindor's sword has snake venom from the basilisk on it now, so it can be used to destroy the Horcruxes. This cutscene just randomly plays. It has absolutely no ties into what you were just doing for the whole of this level, and then afterwards just ends, and then you have to backtrack through that level that you were just playing, following Dean and Griphook for no reason whatsoever really, and that's that. It doesn't happen all the time, but there are definitely segments where it happens, and the Dean and Griphook one is definitely one of the worst. Moving on to the gameplay aspect of this game, so for some reason EA decided that even though they managed to fix the Harry Potter games with Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince to an extent, which was going to the sort of open world RPG sort of style game, and let's go down a shooter style instead. Basically look at Gears of War and go, yep, that's what we're gonna do. And that's exactly what they did. So yes, this game is basically a third-person shooter. You basically are just hiding in cover and shooting spells at enemies all the time. And the worst part about all this is that it doesn't even feel like you're casting spells most of the time at your enemies, but rather shooting actual guns at enemies. Hell, even Goblet of Fire, just spamming the X button or whatever, actually felt less like a shooter than this game does, which is saying something. You are, for at least 90% of the game, going to be hiding in cover and shooting at enemies. After pretty much the first segment, you will get bored of this very quickly, because it is just the same repetitive gameplay all the way through, and it gets tiring. When you get really bored of this gameplay and you can't be bothered to keep shooting at Death Eaters and Snatchers anymore, you can literally just run past them in most of the levels. You don't even need to attack them. You could just get up, leg it, and you'll be fine. It's not a great sign, but I would add it actually was quite a nice thing to be able to do in the game, so I'm glad it's there because it means I can get through a very boring game faster. Harry can actually unlock multiple spells during the game, and of course you can open up this spell wheel to select the different spell you want to use. However, they're only going to be select spells that you're ever going to bother to actually use and want to play with, and this is because most of them are not required in any aspect and are just there to really make the gameplay more annoying at the end of the day rather than help make it different and actually fun. The main spell, of course, that you're going to be using quite literally for the whole of this game, and I kid you not, you might as well just use it pretty much exclusively, is Stupefy. Might as well have called this game, to be brutally honest, Harry Potter and the Deathly Stupefy. There's no real reason to use most of these other spells. The only other two that you really are ever going to really need during the actual course of the game is Confringo, which is required because you need this spell in order to blow open barricades that are just randomly placed in certain levels, and the other one is Impedimenta. This is really useful against the spiders most of the time as it kills them pretty quickly, and you can kill multiple in quick succession. It's also the only other spell I find really effective against Death Eaters as well as Snatchers, but other than that you're probably not going to use that spell very often unless you're just a bit bored of using Stupefy. As for all the other spells, there is absolutely no reason to use them. Sure, they are quite interesting spells for the most part in what they do, but overall there's no need to actually ever use these spells during the course of the game. Also, to add on to this point with the spells, there is actually this level up system that exists where just randomly throughout the game you'll level up and then you'll be told that your spells are now more powerful. Other than the exception of Stupefy, where at the beginning of the game you cast Stupefy quite slowly and then all of a sudden later on it starts speeding up where you can cast it very quickly, it just doesn't feel like there is any impact in this system during the actual gameplay at all. I don't feel like the spells actually do get more powerful. I do wonder if the devs put this idea in because they thought they were going to do something with it and then just didn't do anything with it and forgot to take it out. I suppose the other point to bring up is there are 3 other spells that you can use during the game that you can't select, so to speak, but are quite useful, and this is Expecto Patronum, which of course you will use against Dementors and Dementors exclusively. Next one is 4 points. This one is quite useful if you need to know where you're going during the game, so you can basically get this sort of spell trail that leads you in the direction you're supposed to be going. And then the other one is Protego, which is basically a giant shield. This spell I honestly never use in this game, and the main reason I don't use it is because when you put it up, you can't actually move anywhere. At the end of the day, you might as well just run and hide behind cover. You can get these potions during the game, which I will be honest, whenever I play this game, I always forget these exist most of the time because they're kind of thrown at the player and not really given much description at any point and are very hidden and out of the way, so you will forget them. Potions will help you throughout the gameplay, of course. The one that you will always probably use, and is actually the one that I do use and I remember, is the Doxy potion, where basically you can throw this potion on the floor and it sort of stuns the Doxy so that they can't really hurt you or anything. They just sit still, so then you can kill them more easily with Stupefy. The only other one that I might use on the odd occasion is this sort of smoke bomb potion, which basically hides you from enemies. Quite useful if you're playing the game on hard, I suppose. And finally, that brings me on to the stealth mechanic. The stealth mechanism inside of this game is probably one of the worst stealth mechanisms I've ever used in any video game ever. Overall, most of your time while playing this game in stealth, you're going to be standing still. You have this little meter on the side, which is the Deathly Hallows symbol, that basically depletes every time you move. It doesn't sound too horrendous, but it depletes very quickly, and the only way to refill it again is to stand still. If you stand still with no one around you, then it will basically refill. It refills extremely slowly, I might add, and takes forever to actually refill all the way back up. However, if you stand still and you're surrounded by multiple people, then it will not refill, it will just keep depleting, which is actually really difficult in certain situations in the game, in particular in the Ministry of Magic areas, as those are a lot of tight corridors most of the time. And the other time this can be really annoying is with Dementors flying around, as they keep hitting you most of the time, and also they tend to always deplete the meter anyway. But for me, the stealth section just keeps slowing down the game so much that it makes what's already quite a boring section to play even more horrendous to play. There are actually collectibles inside of this game, which is awesome. I'm glad that there are collectibles here. There are multiple collectibles scattered throughout the whole of the game. They're in multiple levels, and even some of the side missions, which actually kind of makes the side missions feel a little bit more relevant, I suppose. When you collect these collectibles, you get these mini story aspects. So you get one where you get friend George actually doing voice acting as well for this one, and then you get these other ones which are just little parts from newspapers basically, which are just small little written bits. And then you get the pointless collectibles, which are the Deathly Hallows symbols, which actually do nothing. The other thing that you can do in this game is you can actually use a cheat menu, which is not something I was expecting to see, if I'm honest, inside of this game whatsoever, especially coming from past Harry Potter games. But yes, you can actually unlock certain cheats inside of the game by entering in specific codes on the cheat menu, and then you actually unlock certain things that give you an advantage throughout the rest of the game. I think that the graphics overall of HP7 are actually quite impressive. Some of them not so much, but other bits definitely. I do believe that most of the character models actually look a bit better in HP7 than they did in HP6. In particular, I actually think Hermione's model looks vastly superior inside of HP7 than she does inside of HP6. When you've got certain other things such as the dragon, it actually looks really impressive. I think the dragon looks amazing, to be honest. The environments look really good. I think the Ministry of Magic looks fantastic. I also think that some of the snowy areas in the game look really good too. So the music in the game is pretty decent. For the most part, I would say that there's no bad music in this game whatsoever. It's not exactly really memorable to me, but I will say that the main menu theme is memorable. So one thing for me about the Deathly Hallows Part 1 is I've always associated it as kind of this creepy, horrible, dark time during the Wizarding world. What I'm expecting from the game is for it to be really creepy, dark, also in general horrifying. Coming into the game, I didn't get that feeling whatsoever. It could well be because of all the action shooty spell casting. Overall, there really wasn't much of that present. A little bit, I would argue, was present at points during the gameplay, but not a lot. What did impress me though, and is something that probably most of you don't even know if you've played this game unless you've really paid attention to it, is at various points if you pause the game and just leave it on a pause menu, then you get to hear these really creepy, whispering, horrifying sounds. There's lots of really impressive sound effects in these. This is what I was expecting inside of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 video game all around. It's one of the highlights and one of the big positives that I take out of this game, and I am going to actually play a tiny little segment of one of these for you all right now because I really really think you guys should actually hear this. This game was ported to multiple platforms, and it's very obvious from the get-go that the PC port of this game was just very quickly done and thrown out there. Unfortunately, quite a few games of this time period, in particular movie tie-in games, are just ported quickly because they don't have a lot of time. It's nice that at least it has proper controller support inside of it. I'm glad it has that, and I'm glad that at least they actually allow it to go up to 4K resolution, which is quite impressive. The game is locked to 30 frames on PC like it is for consoles. Now on consoles, that makes perfect sense. There should have realistically been a 30 or 60 frame rate option for the PC port, and the fact that there isn't really hurts this game. And of course, as time has gone on and hardware is improved and we've got better refresh rate screens, etc., it really makes this PC port, if you play it normally, awful. And the other thing I want to talk about is the field of view. This doesn't just apply only to the PC port, but this is the best place that I could put it, as it is related to our fix later on that I will be talking about. The field of view in this game is dreadful. When you're walking or when you're just standing still, etc., it is really zoomed in, and there are points where honestly most of Harry's entire body is taking up quite a good chunk of the screen. It is far too zoomed in. Myself and the rest of my team fix enhancers have created different patches basically for various PC ports of the Harry Potter games. We have created a patch for this game which does quite a lot, to be honest, and actually improves the PC port immensely, and to be honest, you don't want to play it without the patch. For example, playing the game at 120 frames now is totally possible without any real problems. You can actually now play with a proper zoomed out field of view, where we have given you the ability to have a sensible zoomed out field of view which just looks nice and makes the game 1,000 times more playable in my eyes. It also has other aspects as well, such as being able to play the game in window mode, having a frame rate counter, things like that. So if you're interested in playing the PC port of this game at the end of the day, then you can go and download our fix from our GitHub area here, and all you have to do is once you download it, you simply just chuck the files inside of the install area where the exe is for the game, and then open up the INI in order to select your specific settings, and then you just boot up the game and play it like normal. So there you go, those are all my opinions on Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. As an overall game, it's not very good, and to be honest, not really something that I recommend anyone plays. If you're a die-hardcore fan, then sure, feel free to jump in and probably bore yourself to death, but hey, I did warn you, it's not worth your time. Honestly, I don't think people really should go and play this. There are much better Harry Potter games out there, and games that honestly actually capture the feel and world of Harry Potter, whereas this one just doesn't. So truthfully, put your time into an actual game that's worthwhile in the series. But if you're really desperate to play this, then make sure you go and play the PC port and use the fix that myself and the rest of my team fix enhancers made for you all, so that way you can at least play it in a semi-decent format rather than the default format, which is just not very good. As for this bad boy, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, it is getting a whooping 1 out of 10. Yep. I know, it's pretty bad, isn't it? Yeah, I don't really ever want to play this game. It's not very good. It's not something that I enjoy even in the slightest. Usually I'm just bored while playing this, and I just want to rush through the game and get it over with, which is not a good sign, by the way, if I actually want to skip through the main segments of the game by just running past enemies, and that's not a good sign. Anyhow, that's my review for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. So, let me know if you guys agree with my opinion down in the comments section. Let me know if you have your own opinions and if you have something to say regarding this game. Otherwise, that's all there is to this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I hope you guys finally are excited to see an actual review series of me just going over different games that I played over my life. And of course, I want to say any feedback that you have regarding this review video would be really helpful to me. So if you did make it to the end, then A, I really appreciate it, thank you very much, and B, just put in at the front of your comment, HP7 not great. Put that at the front of your comment, and then I'll know that you made it to the end here, and at least then I will know that people are watching to the end. It's just useful for me to see what the engagement is like on the review video, so then I can adapt and change the reviews if need be. Either way, thank you all for actually watching the video. It means the world to me. I will see you all in the next review video in the future. So until then, take care and play a good Harry Potter game. See you in a bit.